So a lot has happened over 6 months. I've been taking a hiatus, mainly because not much has changed to the watches that I have, but at the same time, I've just been enjoying them. And there have been a few changes here and there, which I'll be talking about and sharing some of my experiences. But on the whole, my channel has ticked over 1,000 subscribers, and that I cannot thank you all enough for. It's amazing. It's amazing to see a platform grow and see an audience grow with it. So thank you all for joining me, and let's get on to the video.
That clock keeps ticking like a metronome, and my thoughts keep telling me to get me home, but my balls keep telling me to let me just let me
So since we are beginning the video series again, I thought why not begin with the watch that started this channel from the very beginning. The Ginault Ocean Rover is the cornerstone watch of my collection, I would say. It's to this day it's still talked about very often and liked and disliked by everybody, but say what you will, this is a superb watch for the money that you spend on it. And in the story I'll be telling you today, the service was just as superb, so I'll get into those details in a second. First, you can see that it is now on a rivet style bracelet. I took it off the original bracelet because I wanted to experiment with what a model of this watch would be like in the 1960s, a 5512 style rivet bracelet. This came off the Alpha Daytona of mine from a while ago. Interesting story about the bracelet. It used to retail on eBay. When I say retail, it used to cost £20 to buy it on eBay. And if we look at it in detail, it has, apologies for the fingerprints. I know a lot of you hate that I use a cloth to wipe everything down, but anyway. So the bracelet construction is solid. The mid links are solid all the way through. It uses screw links, so you have screws to adjust the length of the bracelet, and has a standard flip over clasp. It is great. I mean, it really is light and wieldy. And another thing that's interesting is that it is extremely thin in profile. If you had to compare the thickness of this bracelet to any conventional oyster style bracelet, it's about half the thickness, which means that it wears a lot better, and I'll show you that now. It fits excellently to the wrist. And something I do like about it a lot is that the profile changes completely. It is extremely flat on the wrist when it is sitting like this. When you get rid of a center link that connects everything together, you can see that the profile changes a lot, and the watch feels a lot smaller as it is in this configuration. So enough about that, let's get to the service story. So during the summer months in the UK, if any of you have been following the news, the UK has been experiencing a severe heat wave, I think one of the greatest in 57 years. And we had a solid 2.5 months of summer, which is really surprising because in past I used to predict that after Wimbledon, the tennis game, the season would go backwards and you'd have rain and then it would get freezing cold afterwards. But it seemed like this season was incredible and caused temperatures to rise. Anyway, why am I telling you all of this? Well, I wore this watch on a NATO strap for the most time of that part of the season, and I'll get into that. I'll share another video about that, talking about Phoenix NATO straps. But on the whole, this watch never left my wrist. I wore it everywhere. I wore it bike riding, to the gym, exercising. I do live an active life, as you can tell by the horrifying calluses on my hands. But this watch had been with me the whole time, and I've gone beyond the phase of really caring for it like a incessant collector would, and I've been using it as a tool watch, and it really has been standing everything that's been thrown at it. I've told you a story about how it's fallen into the Thames with me, and how I've used it at the gym and everything else. So the day came when I decided, let's replace the NATO strap with a rivet bracelet, this rivet bracelet in fact. And it was just a typical evening. It must have been about 30 degrees indoors. The watch had been on my wrist all day, so the watch was really warm. And as I was replacing the pins and I fitted the bracelet on, as you can see, the end links fit perfectly to the watch. Everything fit the first time. No, it's very seldom that you get a watch and all the end links and pieces to fit flawlessly the first time you fit them together. A lot of the time you have to pry with the tool to get it to fit properly. It was superb, and I was so looking forward to putting the watch on my wrist. And as I turned it over, I noticed something was wrong with the dial. So I looked away, closed my eyes, looked again, and I noticed that this numeral at the 8 o'clock position had fallen out of the dial. It was sitting at the bottom of the glass. And I kind of shook my head and really questioned humanity when that happened, because up until that point this watch has been absolutely flawless. The movement is still performing excellently. The timekeeping is superb. The watch hasn't stopped. It hasn't given me a day of grief. But one of the numerals decides to jump out, and you can see it's there. It's at the 8 o'clock position. It's now been reseated. So the story goes that I went onto the Ginault website. For a long time I was deliberating whether I should do it myself, buy a oyster case back removal tool and do it myself. But I thought, maybe it'll fall into warranty. Maybe there might be an opportunity where it can be done for me by professional hands. Because another thing that's important to realize is that this dial is a gloss dial. And if you're not careful, I mean, if you can see my fingerprints on the case, can you imagine what it would be like if you end up having fingerprints on the dial as you're doing the replacement? So I decided, let's see what happens. I went onto the Facebook group for Ginault. Ginault has a Facebook group, and I emailed a request saying that one of the numerals has fallen out. And within, I would say, an hour, I got a reply back from John McMurtry, who is the founder and the CEO of the company. And he was extremely helpful. I decided to send some photos to him of what it looked like. And he said that is very strange, it's never happened before, but it would be a pleasure to service it for you. And this really implies that you live in Europe or in the UK. I think this is where the service center is based for all of us. He recommended that the watch be sent off to Berlin to be serviced, and I agreed. I said that would be great. So I took the watch off the bracelet, I prepared the head, I put it in a foam package and sent it off. The postage was really cheap because the watch head is quite light by itself, and the entire process was covered fully. John said to me, give us your tracking number, and we'll be sure to let you know the process and when it arrives and everything else. And once the watch arrived at the watchmaker, so I got an email saying it's arrived and it's going to be worked on and it'll be back to me within a week. And I think it was less than a week. It was really well done. Anyway, so the watch comes back looking perfect, brand new and polished. Another thing that the watchmaker was able to fix was the winding crown. He fitted it a lot more snugly into the case. I noticed in the beginning when I had the watch, the stem would sometimes have a bit of feedback when I was winding it, but now it has been properly seated into the case. So really, all things considered, this watch has been serviced and it's now performing better than it ever did after its service. So that's great. And the timekeeping is just the same. I've been looking after it for a week now and it hasn't failed a day. So this is the receipt that came with the watch, and I thought I would just share it with all of you. This man's name is Atelier Dolphin since 1999. All of it's in German, the writing, but here's the address, here's the phone number, the email. Luckily, this service did fall under warranty, which is great, so that really did help. So in the end, the price was nothing from my side. But really, the experience was excellent, really above and beyond my expectation. I mean, you know, micro brands tend to be quite lackadaisical with their customers. They don't tend to be very, very committed, but it really was extremely well organized and executed well. And it just goes to show that Ginault really does care about its aftercare service and the customers that follow afterwards. And I know the brand is doing very well. They're still improving their models. They've released a few more. I'd love to do reviews on them, but as it is right now, this is still the original, and you can tell that this is one of the original prototypes because it has a engraving in the center of the case back instead of around the ring. But I thought that would just be an interesting story to share to start this video series up again. It's great to be back. I'll be sure to do a few more and keep perpetuating these videos out to you. I think I will post a new video soon about a Q&A, asking you what kind of questions you would like answered. If you would like any watches reviewed or anything covered, it would be nice to talk about. But until then, thank you very much for watching this very incomprehensive review and summary of the service of this watch. It's back on the wrist and it is performing flawlessly. I'd like to thank Atelier Dolphin and John McMurtry at Ginault for helping me through this and getting the watch back in perfect condition. So we'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.